I quietly walked away from my wife after uncovering the devastating truth of her affair. At the time, I believed I would never see her again. But a year later, she found me, pleading desperately for my forgiveness. What happened next would challenge everything I thought I knew about love, betrayal, and second chances. For over 3 years, we had been together, appearing to the outside world as the perfect couple. I had a stable job that required occasional travel, while she thrived in her own career. We shared a beautiful apartment and had dreams of a future that seemed inevitable. But despite how perfect things seemed, something began to feel off. The changes were small at first, subtle, almost unnoticeable. She started staying late at work more often, frequently missing our weekend plans for last-minute business dinners. Initially, I brushed it off. Our jobs were demanding, and I traveled frequently, so it made sense that we both had our own responsibilities. But over time, I felt her slipping away. She became emotionally distant, uninterested, as if she were merely going through the motions. And I, like a fool, convinced myself that things would eventually return to normal. I couldn't have been more wrong. It started with something insignificant, something I might have ignored had I not already sensed that something was off. One evening, while helping her unload groceries from the car, a glint of pink caught my eye. It was a bra, one I recognized from her favorite store. But instead of being neatly put away, it was hidden beneath the seat. A strange feeling twisted in my gut. She was always careful about her belongings, especially her clothes. Why was it stuffed away like that? I tried to dismiss it, telling myself it must have been misplaced. But deep down, a nagging feeling told me otherwise. As the days passed, more clues surfaced. She would come home late, always using work as an excuse, yet there was no real evidence of it. Then there was her phone. Always in her hands, messages deleted the moment she read them. I had never doubted her before. I trusted her completely. But trust means nothing when someone is hiding the truth. Then came the moment that shattered everything. One evening, determined to rekindle what we had, I set up a romantic dinner. Candles, flowers, everything. I wanted to remind her of us, to bring back what felt like it was slipping away. But when she walked in, the joy I had hoped to see in her eyes was replaced by guilt. She apologized, saying she had to leave for a work meeting. The same excuse again and again. But this time, I couldn't ignore it. As she got ready, I took her phone and tossed it into the back seat of her car without her noticing. I needed answers. I needed the truth. And so I followed her. That night, my world fell apart. I watched from a distance as she arrived at the bar she often went to after work. She greeted her colleagues, but my focus remained solely on her. Something felt wrong, an unease I couldn't shake. Then it happened. She stepped outside with a man I didn't recognize, tall, well-dressed, and far too comfortable with her. They weren't just coworkers. The way they interacted, the way he touched her, told me everything I needed to know. And then, right in front of me, they kissed. My heart plummeted. My mind went blank. Before I even realized what I was doing, I followed them. They drove to a hotel, parked, and walked in together, hand in hand. That was it. The life I thought we had, the love I believed in, crumbled in that moment. I sat there, paralyzed by a storm of emotions. Anger, disbelief, heartbreak. I wanted to scream, to demand answers. But instead, I felt hollow. I couldn't stay. I couldn't confront her. The betrayal was too much. So I did the only thing I could. I left. I got into my car and drove, with no destination in mind, just needing to escape. I couldn't return to our home, a place that now felt suffocating, filled with nothing but lies and broken promises. There was no fight, no argument. I didn't yell or beg for explanations. I simply packed my things, placed my wedding ring on the kitchen table, and walked away. Leaving was the hardest thing I had ever done. But in a strange way, it was also freeing. I needed to find a place where I could breathe again, where I could figure out who I was without her. And so, I disappeared. For the first time in a long time, my mind felt clear, free from the constant weight of betrayal that had once consumed me. I found solace in the most unexpected place, a small, secluded trailer nestled in the hills, far removed from the chaos of the past. It was quiet, peaceful, exactly what I needed. The solitude gave me space to process everything, to heal in ways I never thought possible. I started running again, focusing on my health, both physically and mentally. Without realizing it, I had created a sanctuary, a place where I could rebuild myself from the ground up. I thought I had left everything behind. I believed I had moved on, that I was free. But there was always something lingering, a part of me that felt unfinished. And then, just when I least expected it, she found me. A year had passed. I had finally begun to feel like myself again, constructing a life where the pain no longer defined me. Then one day my phone buzzed. Her name appeared on the screen. I froze, staring at it in disbelief. I hadn't heard from her in months, not a single call, not a single message. And now, out of nowhere, she was reaching out. Her message was short but desperate. "I'm sorry. I need to see you. I can't keep living like this." At first, I ignored it. But as the days passed, her messages kept coming, each one more frantic than the last. She swore she had changed, that she regretted everything. She begged for a chance to explain. I read every word, but I felt nothing. I was numb. How could I possibly believe her? How could I let her back into my life after everything she had done? Then she did something I never expected. She showed up at my doorstep. There she stood, her eyes swollen with tears, her face pale, burdened by the weight of her own mistakes. She pleaded for forgiveness, swore that she had finally realized what she had lost. She said she still loved me, that she wished she could take it all back. But the damage had already been done. As she spoke, all I could see was that night, the way she had walked into that hotel, hand in hand with him, as if our life together had never meant a thing. I couldn't unsee it. I couldn't forget it. Her voice wavered as she told me how much she regretted it, how she wished she could turn back time. But I had spent a year learning that some things can't be undone. Some betrayals leave wounds too deep to heal. I looked her in the eye, my voice steady, my decision final. You don't get to come back and erase what you did. You don't get to break me and expect forgiveness. You destroyed everything, and there's no going back. She crumbled at my words, breaking down in front of me. But no matter how many tears she shed, nothing could change the truth. Nothing could undo the past. She begged. She pleaded. But I was no longer the man who once trusted her blindly. The woman I had loved was gone, replaced by someone who had shattered my heart without hesitation. I had rebuilt my life without her. I had found peace in a world where I didn't have to question whether I was being lied to. That was the life I wanted now, and I wasn't about to let her take that from me. As she stood there, trying to convince me that she could make things right, I realized something profound. This was never about forgiveness. This was about taking control of my life again. For too long, I had lived for her, for us. But now I needed to live for myself. I took a deep breath, turned away, and walked back into my home, feeling lighter with every step. I didn't need closure. I didn't need an apology. I just needed to move forward. The thought of returning to that life, to that pain, was unimaginable. She had made her choices, and now I was making mine. And my choice was clear. I was done. Walking away from my marriage wasn't easy, but it was the best decision I had ever made. It wasn't just about leaving her. It was about reclaiming my sense of self, my peace, my future. I had spent years giving everything to a relationship that, in the end, had only taken from me. And when it finally ended, I realized I had been neglecting the most important person in my life, me. Sometimes, walking away is the hardest decision you'll ever make. But it's also the one that sets you free. Since then, I've embraced a new rhythm in life. I've focused on my own growth, built new connections, and found joy in the simple moments. Most importantly, I've learned that the future is far more beautiful when you're living for yourself, not for someone who failed to cherish you. I may have loved her once, but now I know that love cannot survive where trust has been broken. So to anyone struggling with the pain of betrayal, Don't waste your time holding on to someone who is never willing to hold on to you.
Let go.
Give yourself the freedom to move forward. It may feel impossible at first, but trust me, it gets better. You will heal. You will come out stronger, wiser, and free.